Welcome back to the channel. My name's Chris. I don't know about your YouTube feed, but mine sometimes feels like it's full of shit. I get a lot of guitar stuff on there. Some old stuff, some new stuff, some weird stuff. I click on some stuff, it's not so good. Sometimes, every once in a while, I click on something that's really cool. I am completely inspired by a channel called LoG Sounds. So I clicked on this a while ago and I was instantly captivated. This guy's name is Christian. He goes by the moniker LoG. He is an incredibly capable guitar player, a very, very articulate teacher, and just sort of an interesting, high-energy guy. I watched some of his videos, very inspiring, and I reached out to him for a guitar lesson. Now, I don't take guitar lessons very often anymore, but when I do, I make sure it's from somebody who I trust can move me forward. And I think I can gain something, some inspiration and some knowledge. Boy, was that the case. We kept in touch after the lesson through email and decided to do a little test collaboration where I interviewed LoG. I'm about to show you a snippet of this interview. If you haven't seen LoG's channel, you're in for a treat. If you have, you're going to recognize this is very indicative of his fretboard philosophy, how he thinks about opening up the fretboard, and how he studies the guitar. So let me stop blathering. Let's zoom right in and take a look at this snippet from my interview with LoG.
That I see that many people don't do.
Right. It's like you're attaching cognition to what you're doing.
Correct.
And then your ear is already hearing it, and your brain is going, now I understand what that is, not just how it looks, but when I want to replicate that sound in a different key or in a different situation, now I know, oh, the minor pentatonic scale is flat 3, flat 7 root. Like that's why it sounds the way it does.
Yep.
I'm going to be able to do that anywhere.
Yeah.
That's just, it's the best. It's
how it
best.
goes. Yep.
Okay, so I wanted to put something in front of you. We got together a couple weeks ago, and I really enjoyed that. LoG gave me a guitar lesson. It was fantastic. I'm still chewing on that stuff. I might be doing that for a while. Thank you very much.
Nice.
But in that lesson, you were talking about this great idea that you called left, right, center. And it's the idea, or at least for me, it's one of the first ideas that I had to sort of unlocking the fretboard. And it was this idea that things, you obviously believe that you can play notes in multiple places on the guitar, but this idea, I want you to demonstrate for us what left, right, center is, how it works, maybe with something really simple like a triad or something.
Yeah, for sure. Keep it really simple. I'll just do like a G triad. So a triad meaning just 1, 3, 5. Like you can of course play them all together, and that would yield a G chord, or you can play them individually. Many people would call that an arpeggio. Regardless, you're playing the notes of the chord, right? Chord tones. So the approach that I use, this left, right, center thing, is geared towards how I look at the fretboard, which is not really positional bass. Like a lot of people will do the 5 positions, which are good. There's nothing wrong with that. But for me, when I practice, I don't care about what position I'm in. I more care about what fingering is available. And really that depends on, for me, it depends on where is my root and where are all of the other notes in relation to that root. So if I play G, for example, I'll play G triad. So if I see a G right here, this is the G on the D string 5th fret. I see that's a G. If I play that G with my pointer finger, that puts me in the fingering where the root is on my pointer finger. If I want to play just the triad, where would the notes be in this area? Okay, well, if this is the 1, on major scale on 1 string, I know that would be 1, 2, 3. So that's the 3rd up to whole step. So I can reach with my pinky, maybe I can slide it with my ring finger, however I want, but I can see that note is located right there. Cool. What about the 5? Okay, well, I know the 5 if I just continue my scale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I see 5 is D, and I can see a D right here. And more easily, you can say, well, if this is 1, 5 is always up a power chord. So like that, 1 and 5. Okay, nice. So all of those notes are in the area that I just happen to play in. I just happen to see that G, pop my pointer finger down, and I can play the notes 1, 3, 5. I would call this right shape because my root is here and the rest of the notes of the triad are located to the right of where my root is basically. And you can fill this out even further. You can say pentatonic. What about that? So pentatonic, major pentatonic would be the same thing, G triad, plus the 2 and the 6. So I would say 1, 2, 3, 5, 6. Even though it looks like I have now moved positions, my eyeballs are still looking here for that reference note. I could also look here for this reference note, but I'll talk about that in a second. So again, all these notes to the right of my starting note. Okay, cool. Now what happens if I'm playing whatever and I find myself in the position where my middle finger is on that root? Okay, what about the 1, 3, and 5? So the 1 is still here. The 3 is still here. I can still see it, but it's not necessarily that feasible to play this note in this position. I can slide it with my pinky or something, but is there another place I can play that 3? There is. If this is G, A, B, well, I know B is also right here. So that teaches me, okay, this is also 1 to 3, just like this is 1 to 3, 1 to 3. What about the 5? The 5 is actually still in the same location, and I can grab it pretty easily, right? And that yields this shape, 1, 3, and 5. Most people know this shape. It's a pretty easy one. I would call this center shape because the root is kind of in the center of the note pool. Some of the notes are to the left, some of the notes are to the right. And if you wanted to fill out, for example, the pentatonic, I would just add 2 and 6 into this. So 2 is still where it was earlier. I would just now be playing that with my pinky. So 1, 2, 3, and 5 right there. And then where's 6? I still know it's here, so I can easily slide up if I want to. But I also know it's here. How did I find this note? Because I know the distance between 5 and 6 is a whole step. So 5, 6. But on the guitar, this is also a whole step, 5 to 6 from the G string to the B string. I practice that, memorize it, do what I need to do. Okay. Well, actually, before I move on, as I'm doing this, though, I'm also looking for unique opportunities that the different fingering will yield. So, for example, with the first one, right shape, it might be kind of nice to play root and like slide up to 3. That's a nice figure, right? I can also play 3 and 5 at the same time. One of the most common licks like in the history of guitar. That's what this would be. You're starting on the 1, sliding to 3 because it's available, right? And then adding in that 5 on top. I can get this cool little mini chord shape, right? Yeah. Well, in center shape, it's a different opportunity because I can play 1 and 3 at the same time where I couldn't with the other one. So if I want to do like a little thing like this, that's like a core figure of 20,000 songs, like I could do this. And then maybe if I want to do, maybe pick the 1 and the 3 and the 1 and the 5, getting like something really simple. Or if I want to do like something like that, that is possible here where it wasn't possible in the right shape. So not only are you getting these different locations, but you're just by looking at the opportunities, you're getting just different ideas immediately, just by experimenting, you know. And then the other one, of course, would be what happens if I played my root instead of on the pointer finger or the middle finger, if I happen to play it on my ring or pinky? What happens now? So I'll put it on my ring finger. The third, I still know it's here, but it's definitely out of reach unless I slide up, which is fine. But the 5th is also sort of out of reach now because I would have to maybe use my pinky or something. Still possible, but not that comfortable. So what can I do? Look for the notes in this area. Here's my root. The 3rd that I played earlier is still there from center shape, so I'll still use it. But where's the 5th now? Well, the 5th was here, 3, 5. This one is not really feasible. So now I'll play 3, 5. How did I find this note? I know that note is D. I can see this is a D. And honestly, if you don't know that it's a D, the easiest way to do it is just use your ear, right? Like I hear bum, bum. Where's this note? Oh, there it is. Okay, well, if that's where that note is, that means this must be 1 to 5, just like this is 1 to 5. So by noticing this new fingering, I now have not only learned a different way to play a triad, but I have another way to play a power chord, right? Yeah. That's another way to play a power chord, just like this. If we all played like the little 1, 5, and 1, 6, you can also do it right here, but it sounds a little bit different. Might be easier to play because of where the note's located. So this I would call, because of where the notes are in relation to the root, I would call this left shape. So what do I have? Right shape, center shape, left shape. And if you notice kind of what we're doing, there's another even easier way to approach this. We're starting here, and then each time we move, we're just taking one of the notes and migrating the note to the next string. That's basically what we're doing. Here's our shape, 1, 3, 5. The next shape migrates the 3rd to here while keeping the 1 and the 5. And then the next shape migrates the 5 to here while keeping the 1 and the 3. So naturally you would say, well, the next note I would migrate would be the root. And then the root would move to the next string, and then the whole process restarts. So I can actually, the best way to describe that is if I do exactly what I just did, triad on G right here, right? Same G. So check this out. Right shape, 1, 3, 5. Same 3 notes, G, B, D. Kind of hard to see, but that's the shape. Center shape, starting on my middle finger, 1, 3, 5. Easy. Migrated the 3rd, keeping the root and 5th. Then I migrate the 5th to left shape, looks like this on this string because of the tuning issue of the guitar. 1, 3, 5. Now watch what happens. If I migrate the root, now goes here, it all starts over again. Right shape again, center shape, left shape.
That's cool.
So if I do the whole
really
thing,
cool.
right, center, left, right, center, left. And if you have enough room, I mean, you can use the open string and continue that way if you have enough room to play them all. But that's the idea for me.
Yeah.
I like that for 2 reasons. It helps me, it makes more sense positionally, because when I'm looking at the fretboard, I'm always thinking about what chord am I on? Where is the root of that chord? Where are the other notes surrounding that root? So for me, the idea of playing like large scale shapes doesn't really apply to how I think about it. Because I don't really care like where all, like what the finger pattern is or anything like that. I care what's the chord I'm playing, where's the root? Because if I know those things, I can spread out kind of however I want. So for this mindset, looking at it like this just allows me to adapt depending on the position that I happen to be in, depending on the fingering that I happen to land on. So that's the idea, basically.
That's incredible. And it really lends itself to instantly opening up the fretboard from those locked positions.
Yeah.
Like it seems like just using that mindset and being curious enough and wanting to sort of like, I mean, for lack of a better term, suck for a minute until you find out how to do it.
Right.
Once you get this capability, then it's just a matter of applying whatever sound it is you want, and now the world is your oyster. And it seems like, it's just incredible.
A huge thing of what you just said is when you're playing, thinking like this, it kind of promotes thinking about the actual notes that you're playing, like the actual numbers and everything, because that's kind of what you're thinking about. You're always thinking, here's my root, and if this is root 3rd is here, or here, or fit 1, 5, or 1, 5. So it promotes that type of thinking, whereas playing like whatever, the big scale shape, you can think about the notes, but by memorizing just a fingering, it doesn't promote the individual notes, because all it's really telling you is saying, hey, you want to play a G major scale? Put your fingers like this, flop them around, and you're done. It doesn't really, there's no incentive to really think about the individual notes. But with this system, you kind of are always doing that, because you're thinking about navigating to these notes by looking for specific notes in different places. So then if you're doing that, it's so easy to make modifications. So if I want to play 1 flat 3, 5, play a minor triad, it's the same thing. You just flat the 3s.
It's right there.
You know where all the 3s are. If you want to play like dominant 7th, all right, I know where 1, 3, 5 is, and I know where the
just
flat
add the
7.
flat 7. Okay, well, there's a section of this interview with LoG. Hopefully, if you're a fan of this channel, you can see that there's a symbiotic relationship between how I look at the fretboard and how LoG does as well. Now, the interview was about 40 minutes long, so I thought it was a little too long for this channel. I've posted the entire thing on Patreon, and I also tabbed out the left, right, center demo that he did. Both of those are on Patreon, so if you're interested in watching the entire interview or getting the tabs for that exercise he did, head on over to Patreon and take a look. But the most important thing is if you're inspired by LoG, I put his channel link in the description below. Head on over there and just take a look at what he's doing. I'm still inspired, and I highly recommend taking a look. As always, I hope this has been inspirational for you. I hope you found it interesting. Stay curious, and I'll see you next time.